journey that you took us over the last week?
I need to still, in order to describe the journey really organically for me of this trip would be, I would be able to do it like in a week time. I would really need to digest it. It comes to me like slowly. It's like it needs to sit. Yeah. I can maybe try to define the journey which I prepared, and maybe throughout the way I would kind of recognize what happened. So I mean, for me, the journey which we are going to go through the process of the workshop is natural, is organic. So, running to the forest or to the nature, this absolutely natural process of, again, engaging ourselves in circumstances or environment which we are not so used to anymore. And it's a paradox, since we are often so little in contact with nature. So running to the nature has many, many different layers and aspects. And probably initially it's just like, it just came from the, I don't know what is the order of things, how they started to layer when I was doing this exercise. Of course, there were some influences from the practices of Jerzy Grotowski and people which were working with him. There were influences of the companies previously I was working with, where we were already like doing the practice because if we were working in residences in the nature, we were generally running out. So the general principle of running is important itself. Yeah, so it's not so nice to run in the city. So once we are in the nature, it's very good to just go out and just like get warmed up by the run, by sensing the environment, by being on a fresh air, by let the thoughts and emotions and frustrations or any tensions go. Run is a great opportunity to do that. Yeah, in a run, the thoughts are getting a little bit more ventilated, a little more opened, like, and refreshed. Like, so that's the simple, like, basic idea of the run itself. And eventually, once we're there, that's very good to connect it with all the other intentions. There were practices of running in couples and singing, and experiences in forest are coming all the way back to what, as far as I know, to the practice of, for example, my inspiration of theater, of the center of practices Garzenice in Poland, where this practice has been very common. And it's also being inspired definitely by Jerzy Grotowski, who was working with Vladimir Staniewski in the past. Staniewski, as a director of Garzenice, was a student of Grotowski, and they were working together in Brzezinka again, in another kind of forest base. So it is connected with paratheatrical activities in 80s. Where kind of theater practice or certain exercises were experimented to get out of the theater, or other way around. Certain practices were being experimented in order to bring it to the theater. Yeah. But this is the history, and it's very interesting history of theater, of the sources and and activities of Grotowski. And I would not say that it all started there, just because everyone is inspired by everyone else. So I'm sure that we would be tracing like where Jerzy Grotowski like came out with this idea from. So, but I'm very much influenced by this culture. So for me, running in the forest was part of my performing experience as well. So I'm just kind of repeating this. But so running is important to just generally like relax our thoughts, to get warm in the body, to activate differently our physicality, maybe before we go to the space. And eventually it's often being done just to exhaust ourselves and then come to the space and continue with the practice, which can be much more focused on
We organized this symposium in the context of the project The Shape of Things to Come. It's a project that was funded by Volkswagen Stiftung with a small planning grant for the track AI and Society of the Future. For this project, we proposed to develop a methodology, a mixed methodology combining artistic practice with scientific research. As part of the project, we proposed a proof of concept experiment with very intensive trainings during the summer. We invited artists from Grotowski Institute from Poland. And during the trainings, the performers were monitored for those transformations that are said to be brought in by the practice to be captured, like by technology.
All right, welcome.
The symposium was 2 days of really intense and extremely insightful exchange where we had people from very different backgrounds, from different countries around the world.
My name's Joe D'Souza. I'm from Toronto, Canada.
I have a background in conflict studies and human rights originally, and then in cultural analysis.
Technological systems and environments and devices.
So actor training, I've worked professionally in the theatre as a movement director.
There were presentations in which everyone had a chance to discuss their projects a bit more in detail and to showcase their work to each other.
How does this phenomenon of artificial intelligence relate to the human?
But also to critically ask each other questions about privacy, about ethics of AI.
Who controls the data that is captured? And do they have the ability to have that data deleted?
The symposium was also a stage in the preparation of the full grant application. So we wanted to find partners with whom we can work together for the next 4 years in case we get the next funding.
And so we put people with very different backgrounds in teams and asked them to really think about that idea. Think about what, how, when, what's missing, what can they bring, how can it function together, what is the best sort of framework.
Yeah, it was exciting. I felt very much in the flow, and I think the other people felt the same.
The shape of things to come is thinking above it all, actually.
And I think it's really nice that they're inviting people in to talk about it rather than themselves talking about it. So.
It was just a great conflation of circumstances that brought us to this place and time. It was really inspiring.